everyone to the very first Food in General chat and our series 1 where we look to understand what our food businesses look like in a post-COVID-19 era. Today I'm super psyched to have Gabi and Kyle Knight on the show. They are the chef owners of the Shop, a restaurant in Sea Point, which for me is the understated leader in farm to fork cooking. They are a truly exceptional couple who have worked their asses off to get where they are now. And today we cover their road up until where they are now. Their business model pre-COVID and their business model during COVID. We chat about their adjustment from bistro-style French flair dining to fried chicken and pantry items. And Gabi touches on their delivery model and the costs involved with that delivery model and how it's going to sustain them going forward. And we also touch on the cost of reopening, what PPE looks like, what possible government legislation looks like. This was a truly inspiring and humbling chat. And without further ado, here's Gabi and Kyle Knight. So Gabi and Kyle Knight, welcome to Food in General. Thanks for being on the show. Thank you for giving us your time. I think there's a lot I want to try and cover in a short space of time. I know you guys have got prep to get to. I think just in a nutshell, can you take us through where you were pre-COVID and everything that's happened in between? So from sort of that point where we were at like mid-March and then into lockdown and where you guys are today.
All right. Well, Luke, thanks for having us through. We decided to chat to you. And like I said to you in our kind of messaging, that it's important that we kind of discuss with like-minded individuals and thought trends. We're super excited. But to get back to your question, March, we had a great Feb. So running off a really good February, the team was high-spirited. We had good predictions for March, good bookings, and kind of planning a little bit of extra money this year, kind of do a few refurbs and kind of project the year forward and into early 2021. And then literally overnight, the dine plan bookings just disappeared. Guests at restaurant, we literally went from being full with a waiting list to maybe 4 or 5 tables a night, literally overnight. And at first we're like, maybe it's just the onset, the people were kind of level out a bit and realize it's not so bad, and it just got worse and worse and worse, and then we were told to close. We did, however, over those few days of we did kind of try wind down our costs and kind of play a bit of a slow game or tighter game in those few days. So that helped us a lot with stock-wise and stuff and overheads. But it was, no one could predict it. It was just, it's crazy because we rely on that March into Feb, into the first week of Easter. That's still our good money maker, and that's what we use our predictions.
We've only been open for 2 years now, and the first year was, I think for any restaurant, it's really tough. So our first year was tough. Then our second year it was getting better. It was actually great, and we were thinking, awesome, made a little bit of money. We can see the winter through, and then we're into almost like our 3rd year. And then this hits, and we're almost back to being starting a new restaurant again, year 1. So it's hectic.
Lucky over the 2 years, we managed to build up quite a loyal following and people who really enjoy what we do. So their support has been amazing. Like, we couldn't have asked for better.
I met you, Kyle, February 2018 at Convivium.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, you guys had just taken over the Shop.
Literally just, yeah.
Heart goes out to you because I think you guys have sort of been like this understated restaurant in Cape Town that's sort of had a vision from the beginning and are actually like the true sort of trendsetters from not even a trendsetter, but taking it back to like that farm to fork sustainability. And I feel like just before COVID hit, you guys were sort of getting a kick in your stride and you're getting the recognition. Momentum. Exactly. You're getting the recognition that you so rightly deserve. And fuck, man, it's just so heartbreaking. I'm like, I actually didn't expect to get to
that. Means a lot. Thank you, because it's been it's been a hell of a hard 2 years. And I mean, to hear that coming from you, that you think, and I mean, Kyle is so passionate about cooking, and that's exactly, I mean, we have nothing, we both qualified chefs. It's not like we can give this up and go and get a day job. This is all we know, and this is all we have. So
this is what we're good at, so it's what we do. But it's quite weird, like so saying we started out, and just starting a restaurant's difficult, like it's blood, sweat and tears, literally. And then we had the water crisis, which was also, all these different crises, but we clear the water, we jumped onto load shedding, and we're doing full restaurant. Like, how much worse can it get? And then poof, then old COVID pops around, But hey, like I say, when you pull through after all those things, then you'll be able to go anywhere, and do anything, because you've had probably never seen before kind of things in your face you get to deal with.
The common thread is that, as chefs and restaurateurs, you have to make so many decisions every day, and you are constantly pivoting. Like, pivoting is not a new word for a restaurateur. Like, everyone's talking about pivoting your business now and adapting. And I'm like, if you've ever worked the line, or if you've ever worked a busy floor on a Friday night, like, that's what pivoting is. Like, you got to make decisions on the fly. And I think you guys are no exception to that rule. I think you've pivoted, in air quotes, and have moved from sort of that casual dining with that French flair and a duo of lamb to fried chicken and pantry items. How's that adjustment been for you?
Right now, it's all about making money. It's not, that's what us to survive, for Kyle to be doing this in a year's time. It's almost like, let's do whatever needs to be done. And our fried chicken is a take on KFC, but it's free range. And, you can, if we can sell loads of that, and it doesn't take huge amount of prep and time and gas,
exactly.
There's a good margin.
It's turnaround. It's turnaround time. But we always ratio things of, everyone thinks like slow cooked items are cheap cuts of meat, which they are, but the time and process put into them actually makes them more expensive. So that's where Gabi keeps me on a leash. Like, we can't do this, we can't do that, because it's just not viable at the moment.
You're making this food in this environment, and it's this kind of food, and it's like you've built your passion around getting the full carcass in, and using cuts that no one else uses in slow cooking. And I think you've answered it. Like, is it soul destroying for you? Like, is it taking the passion and the purpose out of cooking for you?
Yes and no. So it's a welcome change for me personally. Like, breaking lamb and stuff I love, and we do. But serving a great fried chicken, or like a really good burger is also, it's fun, because everyone thinks they're simple things to do, but they're really not. From Gabi's burger bun that she bakes, we've now finalized the recipe, and it's delicious, right down to the chicken, at all different changing of things.
Yeah, just we were doing the burger, and I said to Kyle, well, you need to phone and order the burger rolls. And our bakery that we've been using, well, the existing restaurant has been using, so we just kept the relationship. They're not even open. So Kyle was like, well, that's it. We need to make the burger rolls as well. So we're doing that. And they are delicious, but also, again, then there's more margin for us to make some money. So it all just helps.
And how's the delivery model working at the moment? I see you guys aren't on Uber Eats or Mr. D, eh?
No.
And that's
I do the delivery.
Or do you do the deliveries? And is that just because, I mean, I'm just going to put it out there, and everyone who is in the restaurant knows, people who are not in the restaurant probably don't know, that the delivery platforms suck because of the percentage that they take. I think Mr. D and Uber Eats are up 25-30%, which leaves you with like nothing at the end of it. So, I mean, are you running all the deliveries?
So we've got our head waiter who comes with me in the car, and just makes it much quicker. I can just double park outside the house, and he just then rings the doorbell. But on that note, it's also, apart from their 30% commission that they take, we always end up taking, the cut, the hit. So I said, let's just drop the prices. Let's rather let's rather do 10 takeaways as opposed to 3. Let's just make it that much more affordable. Again, everyone is feeling the pinch. And I said, and remember, we're not washing any plates, cutlery, that sort of stuff. And you forget the cost of the packaging. And again, you have to, absolutely, we believe in biodegradable and all of that, and we wouldn't use, it goes against everything we stand for, but a box costs R3.50. That's just the box. Then we've got a brown paper bag, which costs, I don't know, and then it's, and then it's our, and then it's the serviette that goes in there as well. So you basically back up to the normal cost,
if not more.
Than the customer sitting at the table.
I think there's a lot of costs to takeaways which people don't understand, and hopefully we can shed some light on those costs, and people will be happy to pay those prices so that you guys won't have to drop them.
Yeah.
And
it's also the little container of sauce or
100%.
container of mayonnaise. And of course, you can't just put it as a dollop, because by the time it gets to the customer, it's going to look. And that's also the other thing, is you want your food to look good when it arrives. Otherwise, you're not doing justice, and they probably won't order from you again. So you have to spend the money on the packaging.
Which is another judgment I want to touch on. I think anyone who expects to receive their meal through delivery as the same as it would fresh off the pass when you're sitting there, is living in a alternative reality.
So apart from their 30% commission that they take, a lot of people are wanting, because of the virus, they actually prefer that it's not a third party and they know who's delivering it. And I don't know what it's all about. I think it's that they're dealing with so many more people, and I don't know where that's
been massive.
And a lot of people have said, who does your deliveries? Is it in-house? And I say yes, and then they say, great, we want to order. So there's definitely
that's pretty comforting in the fact that people are not relying on the Mr. Deliveries and the Uber Eats, and that they actually are willing to support sort of the in-house delivery system. It's hard for me because we live in Woodstock. So you guys don't deliver to Woodstock, Public don't deliver to Woodstock, all the in-house guys from town don't really. So I have to rely on Mr. D and Uber Eats. But I think it's great that you've taken it in-house. Not that there's anything wrong with Mr. D and Uber Eats, apart from the fact that you can't make any money off them. And I love the fact that people are supporting that. How sustainable is this for you guys though? How long is there a limit to this takeaway system that you've put in place? Is it cool, we're going to do this for 3 months and see what happens, or 6 months and see what happens? Is it going to sustain you for how long?
Carl is very good. So we've worked out what we need. So we're only trading for 3 days. And so we need to cover costs over those 3 days. So we know that we need to make this amount of money over the 3 days.
Sure.
Literally just covering costs. But having said that, we had a seasonal chef who was with us for December and January, and the idea was to keep him on. And we had to let him go. Our waiters, obviously, we've only got one on at the moment, so our heart goes out to the others. But we just need to keep the lights on here. So, we're down to a skeleton staff. Carl and I have never taken a wage, so we're still getting to that stage. So, it's literally, when I say covering costs, it's
a knife's edge. But back to your original question, I do believe it is sustainable if we can just get a good traffic, and this is a completely new game for us. So we're learning literally every day. We've had planned routes that Gabi drives, and it works. And these are things which we have to adapt to. You adapt or die. You have to.
Your type of restaurant pre-COVID is, like Corin from the kitchen said, you're a level 0 restaurant. That's where you can reopen. I don't think we're going to reopen for the next 18 months. At least get to level 1 or 0. And I hate to be quite frank here, but does takeaway sustain you to then? And also, if we do get a chance to open before, it's probably going to be at a limited capacity, maybe 20 or so people allowed in at once. Do you continue the takeaway? Do you split your kitchen in two? How does that affect your in-service? Have you guys thought about that at all?
We have discussed a little bit. For us, the way we do things at the moment is just to keep our own sanity. Try not to think too far, because what level 4, level 3, or level 0 tell us on paper is nothing to what's going to be announced. Like, it just changed all the time. So we stick with the current rules, and the delivery, we believe the home deliveries will continue from a guest perspective right through. It's going to change the way people eat. So it's definitely a line that we're going to evolve and going to keep going with, because we believe it will keep going. But back to the 20 people in a restaurant, then the whole sum needs to be renegotiated.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, everything has. I think the world will change. You know, Carl and I were working all day, every day to buy the bigger house, to have a better car. I just don't think that that's a reality anymore. I think, you know, everyone is just going to have to sort of scale down their dreams and stuff, but and also renegotiate rent with the landlord, because, you know, if the landlord thinks that you're open, then they want full rental. But on a 20 seats, you can't, like, everything has to change.
Well, I mean, I think that's, again, it's like you're saying, it's a fight for survival. And if I look at your shop, if I can think back, I mean, what do you got? You guys are like a 50-seater at capacity, 60-seater. Yeah. You are going to have to now put tables 1.5 meters apart from each other. How many seats are you losing there? How does that affect your break even? And sort of, hopefully that, you know, this platform can like bounce ideas within the industry to like sort of understand, you know, maybe there needs to be a new norm. Maybe it's if you're losing 20 seats, but, you know, you restrict people to an hour and 15 minutes per sitting, so that you can now turn the restaurant 3 times a night as opposed to 1.5, because you have to. That's how you're going to survive. So I think there's a lot to like think about, and I'm glad you touched on the rental aspect. I don't know if you guys are happy to sort of disclose if your landlords come to the party or what the situation is.
Landlord's been very accommodating.
That's awesome.
Which is in an understanding that they also need the money. You know, they also need some sort of money because they rely on that. So we've kind of reached an agreement each month, and so far it hasn't been bad for either party. He has helped us, and he's been managed to be helped. But moving forward, like Gabi said, the whole sum needs, I mean, like you said, you say 1.5 meters. We did a quick numbers the other day. That takes us to 25 seats in the restaurant. You know, that means half. Wow. Which means your spend per head needs to double if you base your on this current rentals and current overhead. So that whole equation has to change to survive.
I mean, the spend per head doubling then begs the question: do you think people are going to be open to paying double for their food?
I think that, I don't know. I think everything has to change. Restaurants have always been on such fine margins.
Tourists.
Yeah, the pay is horrendous.
Yeah.
So maybe this is the time to change things up.
You as chef owners can start actually taking a salary. And I mean, that's like the reality of it. Like, you work probably 18-hour days, 16 to 18-hour days sometimes, and you're not taking anything back. And I think, but going back to what you're saying, Gabi, I think what's really maybe a silver lining to take from all of this is like we're in a period of reset, and I hope that this pandemic will reset the flawed business model that the restaurant is, of that high capex expenditure to try be like the most aesthetically pleasing, you know, restaurant. Let's hope that the way consumers look at restaurants now is actually sort of the roles will be reversed, and we will go to restaurants, and me as a consumer, I will go and support a restaurant now, no matter what it looks like, you know, no matter what ratings and awards it's got. If I follow that restaurant, I'm going to go there because now I know that I'm supporting the community that restaurant supports.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's hope we can sort of shift the consumer mindset, through conversations with you guys and opening up about all of this. Hope that consumer expectations will drop and they won't expect, the fancy light fittings and, all of that jazz. And now it's sort of a way to support the community. In a sense, the consumer's becoming the chef and the waiter. They are going to the restaurant to serve that restaurant's community. I mean, that I can only hope for.
Our head waiter, he's like part of our family, and he's been, as I say, doing the deliveries with me, and the generous tips that the customers have been giving, again, 100% goes to him, and it's because people know him, and when he's at the door, it's like, "Hi, Ali, how's it going?" And I think that's why, that people have been unbelievably generous.
Awesome.
Which again, I think it's because they're almost family. Like, and the people that are coming here to handshake and it's "Hi, Ali," so they know that it's going to him and it's making his life better.
Yeah, I think that's, the generosity in the food community and sort of the greater food community that supports restaurants and stuff has been, it's been amazing. From, chefs just turning around and cooking 2,000 meals for homeless people to customers starting GoFundMe accounts for various wait staff. And it's amazing.
I think, like, as chefs, everyone's quite hardcore and quite proud in their own way. But it's incredible how many people, like the messages between different restaurants and the messages from, Carl gets messages all the time, from Alex from Sea Breeze to Greg from Ray Grill. Today was Melting Pot. And it's almost like the chefs are all coming together, where initially maybe there'd be this secret, sort of competition or rivalry, and now everyone's coming together just to bounce ideas and how things going for you. And, everyone just wants everyone else to succeed and be busy so we can all be standing at the end.
I think there's such power through collaboration, and it's so comforting to hear that the industry and the people that are so actively involved in it are coming together. I think that's super awesome. I wanted to chat to you about UIF and the Solidarity Fund. Have you guys explored that at all? Is it something that you've submitted for your staff? Where do you sit with that?
UIF, the tours thing we've applied for, and we got the staff got paid out for the first 35 days. Okay. Which was, we had to reapply 3 or 4 times, and there were a few issues, but long story short, everyone got their wage. And the rest of the funding didn't really work. I wouldn't say it didn't work for us, but we tried to hold out from that because they're all basically loans. And we've just come on, we literally just cleared ourselves from paying. Now, we didn't want to, unless we really have to, fall back into that. Yes, these are the 5 years or whatever, the percentages are great, but it's still that having it on your mind that you owe that, like I say, we did look at them, but we didn't apply for any because we just didn't want to fall into that group, or I say into that.
We'll fall back into
paying again.
Paying back a loan.
And then some of them, obviously, we didn't qualify for regarding our stats and stuff like that, which is completely understandable. But I would have thought, this is just my personal opinion, is that they could have offered a little bit more for the actual restaurant. Not a lot of it was for the staff, which I understand, but the longevity, the sustainability of that, the restaurant needs to survive.
In order for them to
the
have
staff
a salary.
to have a salary in a year or 2 years' time.
I think I share the same views with you on that. I also think it's like something I see coming out of a lot of the stuff I'm listening to in the States, is that there are these packages in place, but the restaurant business is a unique business, and I think everyone's sort of crying for the package to be a bit more tailored to the restaurant business. And I think another thing you touched on was it's on a loan basis. I was having a chat to someone about rental payment holidays, and I sort of posed the question to him. I was like, it is something you're going to have to pay back, and you're now going to be accruing more debt, and you're going to have to make probably 1.5, 2 times your income in 18 to 24 months time. And we're entering a recession, and
winter.
You're probably going to lose seats in your restaurant. Like, have you weighed those costs up? And I mean, I think you guys have obviously weighed those up and opted not to go for that, which, I mean, I would probably do the same thing. I want to maybe get a sense of the future. And when I say the future, I'm not sort of talking 18 to 24 months. I'm maybe talking like, have you even had a glimpse of thought to 6 months when you can reopen with 20 seats in your takeaway model? Have you looked at the cost of reopening from the PPE? I'm not entirely sure if government's going to pass a legislation like they are in the US, but I had a good read on the government website about social distancing laws and how you need to separate people in kitchens and put barriers in between them if there's no room for 1.5 meter distancing. Have you guys thought about that at all?
Not really, no. I mean, I actually was sent that document last night by my dad. Like, he said, maybe have a good read, and it's the official document. And I just touched on the kitchen stuff, and in a small kitchen like this, it's going to be difficult because you've got space, to work on, but there's to have that distance between each thing, and then you need to be next to your equipment. So it will be challenging, but we haven't like Gabi said, we haven't given much thought.
Yeah.
We'll probably that bridge.
Yeah, I think we're just trying to deal with the now and get through this.
I have visited. When I say visited, I've picked up home meals and that sort of thing, and from restaurants in town where their kitchen is like half your size. And they're a busy kitchen. They've got like 4 to 5 people in there. And I mean, how do you maintain a 1.5 meter distance? It's like, it's insane. So, and I mean, you guys have an open kitchen. So.
Well, that's, I actually thought about that this morning before this discussion. I was like, shit, what used to be the kind of theatre for everyone to watch now is going to be theatre, but on a scale of people going to be judging and criticising more. He hasn't got this on, or he used that, So we're going to have to relook at that whole model when we can seat people. Base-wise in the front, we don't have a problem. As you know, we're quite well spread out, which is fine. But, again, like operational of a service with a mask on, having to taste each sauce, it will become challenging. We'll just have to figure out a way.
When we went into that like soft lockdown where there was no alcohol to be sold after 6 or something, we made a huge effort. We took off the salt and peppers. We took the cutlery off. We sanitized before they sat down. The menus were on the table, so there wasn't passing around of menus. And
So, sorry, can I just ask you, how did that work for you guys? And did you find it, did it flow nicely? And the reason I ask that is because there's a lot of countries reopening in Europe, and they are opening with no salt and peppers, chalkboards for menus, like everything that you're describing now that you did in the soft lockdown. Like, did that work for you?
Yeah, it worked fine. I mean, it was, we had our, those that know, we had our classics, and we had that laminated. We actually had it stuck on the table. So it was sanitized. So again, it's not that someone was sitting and so it was, and then we had our specials on the board. But we had 2 girls in, and I'll never forget the conversation. They said, never forget, us as customers know the risk we've taken, and we have decided to come and eat. And it was crazy because they said, can we have some salt and pepper? And I was like, sure. And I went to the table and I had my sanitizer and I sanitized the whole, grinders and stuff. And that's what they said to me. They said, we know the risk that we've taken coming here. So it's almost like, yes, we are very hygienic, but take those precautions. But they know the risk, and they almost want to come out to have maybe a normal experience. So Yeah, it's quite a tricky, but then we might get the odd customer who will, you know, point out that they didn't do this, or so. Yeah, it's a fine line, I think.
It's so difficult. Like if you think about, especially like our style, bistro, you know, kind of
Laid back, easy going.
People come because it's the feeling, you know, it's the crowdiness, it's the bustle, it's the noise, music, it's the wine, it's the waiter, it's the whole experience. You know, now kind of closing it down, limiting the seats, you almost kind of, it's going to be very tricky to have people enjoy it. You know, not just the food, the whole experience.
It will almost be quite clinical.
I want to say like surgical, like it's here's your meal, order, you can't touch this, we can't give you that, you know. That's the other questions. Are people going to enjoy it? You know, that's something we're going to have to think about and kind of adapt at that time.
I recently wrote something where I described what I think the future of restaurants would be, and that's like your bistros and you guys at the shop are not going to be opening up for, you know, 2-hour, 2.5-hour boozy brunches with mimosas, or 5 o'clock wine and dine with oysters into a meal. And it goes back to what I was saying. I think the consumer now has to shift the mindset and take pleasure in the idea that they're now going to the restaurant to support small businesses, to support like the people that you guys support, the chef that you had to let go, the waiters that you've had to, you know, let go. Like, I think we have to shift the mindset and take joy in the fact that by us being there, we're providing like a meal for 4 other people type thing. And that's what it's so hard to predict the future. You talk about restaurants being clinical. I'm trying to think what the restaurant experience will be in 6 months time. And it's just, I think everyone's trying to answer that question, and no one's got the answers, and there's such limited information that we're getting. I applaud you guys for pivoting, you know, as the trend word is being thrown around, and taking it in your stride. What are your thoughts on the reopening? Like, do you think people are going to just rush to restaurants?
I think it's dependent on booze as well. Booze has a huge, when it went into that soft lockdown and there was no alcohol to be sold or whatever, it just, the atmosphere, everything is just terrible, because, you know, you're not sitting having a conversation, sipping on a glass of wine. You know, it's sort of people are waiting for their food and then eating and then leaving. How
do you guys as an industry and chefs as a collective try and get that busy feeling back in a restaurant that's probably got half the capacity?
It's a difficult question, because our immediate play on things, especially in winter, is when it is quieter and you only have 30 booked, we just take tables out. So the place is full. You know, there's no seating available. But you can't do that now. Now it's about space between tables and demarcated space. Like, they have to see those lines or that tape on the floor. So you've actually measured it, you know. So it's actually it's all kind of set up. So that's tricky. Like, how do you bring a vibe to a bigger space with less people? Let's say we can open to 20. Depending on regulation, do we then temperature shoot everyone who comes in and we record those names? I think it'll become
a regulation, though.
That also, it's like you're going to the doctor, you know. It just takes that whole beautifulness of a restaurant completely out the window. But what do? We're going to have to, in order to move forward, you're going to have to kind of comply with those regulations.
But that'll be the new norm.
No, but a lot of people, I get annoyed if I always have to have a temperature shot because I'm busy, you know. But I understand it.
Yeah, it's one of the things I wanted to touch on now, is like the cost of reopening. You talk about take people's temperature. That requires you to get a thermometer. Those are $1,500 plus.
We looked at it yesterday.
You got to equip. If I can remember correctly, at like full capacity, you guys had sort of 8 to 10 staff at the place. You got to equip them with 2 masks, which is at minimum, according to government doc. I've got the numbers. You actually wrote it down. That's like $2,000 or whatever it is. Then there's like the gloves. I worked out that if an employee had to use 5 sets of gloves per day, which is not like unreasonable for a full shift, you would need to use 1.5 boxes a month for them, and that's going to be like $3,000 an employee. Like,
and
now,
also
and now that you can't have you have to have paper towels everywhere. I mean, that I know from being in the industry, like paper towels is expensive. You don't know what's
it's also I like to be quite streamlined, so we had one payment method, and it was through Yoko, and people were finicky about touching the thing, so now we've gotten onto SnapScan, which I must say is very efficient, but again, it's now another portal,
another commission you have to pay.
But the commission is slightly higher. So it's like, so it's all those sort of things.
I mean, also, do you have to pay for another salary now when you reopen for someone to permanently stand at the door, take people's temperatures, give them hand sanitizer, and record their information so that government can, what do they call it, trace, contact trace, or whatever it is. Also, Carl, to speak to your idea of people getting irritated, I think it's what Gabi says, and I'm like, it's a new norm, and I am slowly starting to despise that word, new norm. And I think people are just going to have to take it in their stride, much the same as you guys have had to adapt to fried chicken and pantry items. I am going to take pleasure in the experience of dining out again. We don't dine out often, but when we do, it's such a joyous occasion for us, and it's I don't actually give a shit if I come to the shop and you have to read my temperature, because I have to go to Woolworths or Lifestyle Center and they have to read my temperature there anyway. I mean, between Olive Branch and Woolworths, I've had my hand sanitized 6 times. I mean, I'm starting to smell like pure alcohol. Which is another question, you having to sanitize workstations and tables in between sittings, and people walking in is your restaurant smelling like an alcohol factory, a distillery?
It has got that smell, that sanitizer, crisp and clean, but over and over, your hands become a bit also, almost feel a bit raw sometimes.
Yeah.
Sorry, just touching on the one thing we said, with the glove issue and your calculation. That's one thing that I don't agree with is, so for me, I've always thought that gloves provide a kind of false sense of security. So you've got gloves on, so you're safe. But those gloves in turn should be washed or changed as you would touch anything with your normal hands. Yeah. Gloves will use cleaning chili or something, fish, but for us, unless we're told we have to, I believe a sanitary of your hands visibly in front of people every couple of minutes between touching things is a better, kind of safer, cleaner way than gloves on. I'm fine. My hands are clean, but the surface of the glove may be filthy.
And it's also as chefs, I mean, David Chang pointed it out in one of his podcasts, how do you feel salt when you salting something? How do you feel how do you feel your meat when it's cooking? It's just it adds this layer of disconnect between you and your food. And I mean, also just to throw in a rant from my side and my 2 cents, I'm a big advocate for no single-use plastic, and we try and do everything we can at home, and I just want to you say people are judging you for not using biodegradable stuff, and I wish they would just pull their fingers out of their asses, because you guys are in such a vulnerable and tough time at the moment to have to think your entire menu, your entire offering just to survive. And now people are judging you on the takeaway stuff. It's just maybe in 6 or 12 months they can judge you, but right now, if anyone who's listening who is judging people, I think you should stop. More future focused question. You guys have released quite a long list of pantry items which look amazing. Have you toyed with the idea of an online shop? Where's it going to go? I think there's a lot of thoughts around diversifying income streams going forward, to have maybe your restaurant being 50 or 40% of your revenue, and having revenue streams elsewhere. I don't know if it's something you're thinking about pre-COVID, but now with your list of pantry items, is this something you've maybe looked at putting online, doing an online shop? I don't know, it's something you guys have thought about?
Kyle's always wanted to do a pantry sort of, and that's the great thing about, that's the one positive. It's almost pushed us into that corner to now start doing the things.
Just forced to play,
Yeah.
For now, I mean, we've got a few mates who got like online kind of type of thing, and they've offered to put our product out there, which we probably will do. But also, like, it's quite nice selling it to people popping in or walking past, ordering, you know, putting in one of their takeaway bags for them. Like I say, the range is not extensive, but it's, and Gabi hit a note, was there's no preservatives or anything. So it's, that shelf life thing is something we're still learning. Like it's a whole different ball game for us. So, like I said, we went from doing 50 covers a night, planning that. Now you're into bagging mayonnaises and jarring hot sauce, you know, with labels and all kinds of stuff. So it's a complete, but an online kind of thing moving forward would be the right thing to do, and also kind of diversifying our income by, like you said, that's another thing we're working on at the moment.
You guys have that hatch, which sort of the window hatch, which opens out. Do you have the ability to like put a deli there for like the likes of me to drive past on a Thursday morning and buy a hot sauce and a marmalade?
We are actually working on that hatch thing. We're chatting about it more from like a coffee perspective, and like kind of sweets that we would make every morning, which I think will work really well. But back to the hot sauce and marmalade, we have a lot of oaks that just kind of DM us or WhatsApp us. We're driving past in 20, just pop outside. We package it and you snap scan in the window and off you go. So that's a complete option. I think right now it's a safer option because often we're quite open to the public, so we don't want to cause it to do anything that's not allowed, you know. So the drive-by through the window, people kind of are happy to do. So if you want a hot sauce and marmalade, drop us a DM. We'll meet a quick one now.
I mean, it's just having a conversation with a roaster, a mate of mine who's a roaster, just chatting about all the coffee shops that have opened. And I posed a question, I was like, are they even allowed to open? And I actually
that's why we haven't done, because we're not 100% sure.
But that's the thing. I mean, there's so much grey area, and I think the people that chance it. I mean, Kyle is by the book with everything. He needs to know, like, this is allowed, this isn't, and he would never chance something. But there's a couple of places, you know, in Sea Point that are selling coffee and are making money, and we think, well, shit, maybe we should be doing that. Especially between the 6 to 9, a lot of people walk past the shop.
And they've asked, are we selling coffee? And we're like, no, but again, trying to read, are we allowed to? You know, asking mates on how they're doing, have they been checked? No one's been checked. So it's, again, Gabi says the grey area. I battle with that kind of stuff. I like, no, it's right, but I must just probably.
I'm a risk taker. I'm like, let's just do it until we get told not to. You know?
I mean, it's almost like trading without a liquor license. Like,
I know, it's
going to come in, But also, I mean, just to like touch on that, I think whatever you guys do decide to do, and if and when you can open up, I mean, I don't have the luxury of walking on the promenade because I live in Woodstock, but from what I've seen, there's like 1 billion people that are that frequented from like 6 to 9, and maybe there's room there to capitalize on that. You guys are so close there anyway. I mean, if I was walking there, I'd come past for a coffee. I did a naughty the other day and went from Woodstock to Frederhoek and walked with a mate to Tamboerswinkel for a coffee, and it was honestly felt like I was in Europe. I was like, when have I ever in South Africa walked through the suburbs to go get a coffee at a local cafe? And then I was like, how do I drink this walking past people with a mask on? I was like, what do I do? I was like a deer in the headlights. I mean, it was, we had a good laugh about it. I mean, thanks so much for opening up and having this conversation with me. And I mean, what do I say? Good luck. I mean, it's...
Yeah, well, we'll see you on the other side. How's that?
I mean, 100%. I honestly, like, I'm not going to be one of those people that rush, because I'm also like, you know, not by the book, but it's like, and I see that China's having like a phase 2 of like,
you know, which is scary.
It is scary, and it's hopefully lessons we can learn from, because I mean, in my mind, South Africans just think life's going to go back to normal. And I'm like, I don't know what world you guys are living in. Like, this is not how it's going to work. You know, but I'm not going to rush back, but I do look forward to coming to dine at the shop, even if I have to get my temperature taken and my hand sanitized. Like, you know, so guys, thanks. I really appreciate this. And Good luck for the weekend and good luck for the months ahead.
And thank you for reaching to us first.
Oh no, I mean you guys are going to be the first Let's Go With podcast, whatever this is. So I mean,
awesome. Well, thank you.
Feel privileged.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Awesome, guys. Have a great Thursday, and let's keep in comms. I think if you guys have any ideas, if I have any ideas, let's just bounce it around.
Perfect. Awesome. We appreciate that. Thanks, Bruce.
Awesome. Have a good one.
Cheers.
Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to my conversation with Gabi and Kyle Knight from the shop. Their braveness and their take it in their stride attitude is humbling and inspiring. What an awesome couple who run such an awesome space, and I for one can't wait to get back there. Thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope you gained some insight into what the business model of a restaurant looks like and what the takeaway model looks like and the costs associated with it. It's not easy out there, and yeah, we just try and support the guys as we can. And please stay tuned for an upcoming episode I'm pretty excited about. I'll be chatting to Murray Clark, who's a friend and former colleague, and he's a property developer and retail entrepreneur. And I'm hoping to pick his brain about lease negotiation and what rentals might look like in the future for our small businesses, in particular food and retail. So that's an exciting conversation coming up. Cheers, guys.